Hello and welcome back to Stu Structures. We're here today to continue our build on the Beanery with this video number 22 in the series, so stay tuned. Okay, so in this segment of building the Beanery, we're going to continue on with all the little chores that we started on in the last one. Both the staircases we need to work a little bit more on and get them, the back one enclosed in that structure. We need to get the side one kind of in place, but I don't really want to put that on there till we get some the rest of that walkway frameway built. So we're going to continue on with doing that. We also need to start the roof on this structure, and there's several other little things that need to be incorporated into this building before we're finished. So we'll start on all that and see how far we get. So let's go. We're going to pick up here with working some more with the wood for that walkway. Remember, I had cut all these little pieces in the last one and went ahead and dyed them in large batches in a bowl. Well, I really wasn't happy with this, so what I'm doing here is just coming back with a brush and kind of weathering these a little more and taking some more of the sheen of the wood off of them. Basically what I do is just put a real thick piece of weathering in here and make it look like it's walked on and random boards. The next thing we're going to do is, where those doors are on that second floor area there, they're a little higher than the walkway, so we need to use this styrene stair kit from Evergreen and just make these two little sets of stairs that will go up into the doors from that walkway on either side. Then we go ahead and paint those and glue them into place after we glue all this wood into place, which took quite a while. But here's kind of a shot of all of that in place, and I'm happy with the way this turned out. This looks like a good little walkway. I got to come back with some matte finish where a little bit of glue shows here and there and just touch up the black paint with a brush down in there a little bit, but this turned out well. The next thing we're going to work on is the staircase area on the back of the building. We need to enclose this. I came back here first and just painted the staircase black, everything that'll show. I left this white area on the outside because the outside wall will glue to this. So I come through and just cut all the parts for the walls. This first part, the main walls are an old wood. It's basswood, but it's grooved out to look like siding, but it's actually wood, so it'll give a better effect than styrene. And we start by just making the flat back wall, which has this 4/4 window in it. And remember, there's a doorway underneath of it, so this isn't the full height of what we wanted for the one corner wall. But then we glue that with a corner brace onto the other wall, and you can see the warping that I'm getting out of this big piece. This is an old piece of wood, and I know when I paint it, it may warp a little bit more too. So I'm going to come back and put a bunch of bracing on. I started out just by putting this bracing and some corner bracing on it, and it just still is not alleviating all the warp. So, as I was coming back and painting this coat of light paint on the side, but I just added some more bracing, which will show as supports for the stairs on the inside, but it also helped take a whole lot of that out of the bow of this wall, so it's a lot flatter than it was and a lot easier to work with. Now we need to add a landing at the top of the stairs where people would come out of the door and go down the stairs. So I put this piece of balsa wood at the top up here. Then we need a handrail, so I went through and just cut this styrene rod, which is a real small rod. You can barely even tell it's round, it's so small. But I just cut 3 little tiny pieces to glue on the back side of it to hold it out from the wall a little bit, and then glued that in place after I painted it so that the handrail is in place. So everything, once I get it on in front of that, I don't have to worry about coming back and getting into it. Then I went ahead and painted the door area black. You really won't be able to see in and see this, but this will appear like there is a black door in there. And I went ahead and painted the landing area as well black, because, not that it's going to show. But, there was also a foundation in that last shot as well, and I pre-painted it and then glued these walls in place on the back of that building. and then I'll go ahead and cut the roof parts. Now I know exactly how wide those are, so these are a little longer than need be, but I need a support on the back side of those where they meet up with the wall to glue on, so these little thin pieces are for that. And then I go ahead and glue that together, and then put them on the building, cut them to length, and glue them on the building with a little overhang all the way around, and then I have a roof. Now I need to work some with the top of this. I want it to have this same paper type of roof that I put on the building between the two hotel buildings. So I cut this little piece of paper, and then we glue it on and trim it off. Once I get it glued on, I just take an X-Acto knife and use the wood underneath to come back and trim the edges so that it's nice and flush with the wood. If there's just a little overhang and the paper turns down the edges, it's actually a little better. But then I just come back and put some paint on that, and we have our black paint. Once I put the flashing on too, and then paint it. And then I come back with just a black permanent marker and put some lines on it where seams would have been in the paper coming down that roof, and that's done. And something else off the list. Now we need to put the third story roof on that last hotel building, so I just cut a whole bunch of strips for supports, and I'm going to mount this roof on there permanently. I'm not going to make it removable like I did some of the others. So I make myself a little tiny jig that so I can come through and glue these on and get them the same exact height all the way around the edges. And I just hold the jig in place and hold this plastic up to it and come back and just use some of that quick glue and glue this all the way around the edge for supports. Now I'm using a thicker sign for this, so I'm not really worried about a whole lot of sagging, but I went ahead and put all these cross braces in them to stop any sagging in the roof that may happen. Once I get the building glued on it and everything else, I don't think it would be a major issue, and I did these in 3 pieces to make it easier to get the roof down in. Once I mount paper on top of this, you're not going to see the seams anyway, and everything else will go on top of that and the flashing. So there's another roof, at least basic roof, glued in place and out of the way. And painting and everything else will come after I put the building, the little structure on top and the chimneys and everything else. Then we'll worry about following up with the rest of that process. Now we're going to work on one of the extensions for that walkway that goes between the two hotel buildings. Now you saw me put the cross bucks together as the upright support, so this is the extension that will come out from the building. And I just take 2 of those I-beams that I used off the old staircase and cut some of these other I-beams for in between them, and then I mount that to the top of that other structure that I had previously built. Now I did trim the side pieces off as a area that they do slide back into the building. And I put these upward braces on, the angle braces on it, to give it a little more structural support, and put all these steel pads out on them. Now I didn't go back and worry about all the rivet detail in all these little pieces, and then I just come back and put paint on it, and we have one of these structures finished to be able to mount into the building. Now it will get another cross member once it goes back in between the building, but I didn't want to put that last one back there in place until I had it glued to the building, so I made sure everything was right. And now we need to make this little electrical piece that'll go onto the side of the building, and these are just little stanchion supports for something off of a railroad car, I think, and I just cut the very ends of them off and glued them onto this wood piece and painted the wood, and then painted the stanchion pieces like little insulators. And then we come back and glue that onto this corner of the building where the electrical work will come into. Now these actually do have holes in them since they were stanchion supports, so I can come back and add wire into that later on. Now we're also going to come back and just paint this little end of this roof, because where these 2 little roofs come down and meet in the center gutter, just a little bit of this does show above where these other roof lines are. So I came back and just touched up the end of this paint as well. So there you have that segment of building the Beanery. It's coming a long way. It's nice to start getting some more of these little tiny things out of the way. It's just, like I said many times, it's just a big building. So in any case, we still have more to work on in the next video. We'll continue with that flat roof on the big building. There was also a second structure, a wooden structure, that sat on top of that building. I'm not sure if maybe because that building was added to later in time, the third floor, that maybe it had an elevator in it. This is a pretty big structure for a roof access structure. But in any case, it doesn't have any windows, but it has a door in it and a roof on it, so we need to add that structure to the top of that. And the last of the chimneys need to go on that building, as well as the surface material and the flashing around the edges of that. I kind of held off putting some of the gutters on these buildings. I keep knocking off these 3-story downspouts as I'm working on the building, so I'm going to have to save those till the last thing to put on. We need to continue on with putting those extensions onto the walkway through the passway through those 2 hotel buildings. And I think I'm going to go ahead and cut a I have a real thin piece of old paneling that was removed from a home that was having some upgrades done to it. So I think I'm going to take that paneling and just go ahead and cut a piece for a platform for this structure, and then texture it to look like concrete, which this would have been concrete according to some people I talked to. And that way we can go ahead and mount those extensions onto the walkway and not worry about them getting knocked off as this building's being stored over the next several years. There was also a telephone pole that right next to the building that provided the electrical service to the electrical board that we just added to the building. And on the back corner, just not too far away from the building, there was also a concrete phone booth that they would have used for communications on the railroad as well. So that'll give me the ability to add these few extra things in there, and you know, that'll give some security to those extensions for that walkway too, so I don't have to worry about them getting knocked off, and I can mount them permanently and finish the walkway to that point. I really want to put that one side on, especially because the staircase comes up and meets that and attaches to the building, and that would give it a little structural support. But the way they stick out, I can just picture myself knocking them off 500 times. So we're going to go ahead and make a platform and head in that direction. There's still several other little things to go on this building. It was nice to come out and get some of those out of the way, but I want to thank you for coming back and spending this time with me and watching my videos. Like I said, maybe in another 3 to 4 videos, well, I don't know, this is coming close to the last one I'm actually filming. Maybe in another video, maybe with the platform going on, maybe we can wrap this up in the next video. I'm not really sure. If not, it'd be just a small tiny bit of stuff that would have to be done in another one. Maybe as we start the build on the next building, we'll just include that with starting the next building and give you some direction of where I'm heading. I have decided to go ahead and build the freight house that was here in Grafton, West Virginia for the next build. So we'll start on the freight house and start heading in that direction. You know, I do appreciate you coming back and sharing my videos. I say that over and over again, but I really do. I hope you're jumping out there and building some buildings and playing around with scratch building. Spring's coming up and everybody's anxious to get outside, I'm sure, and start doing some stuff outside. But don't forget about your trains. Come back and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell, and you'll be notified when new episodes come out on the builds that I'm doing. I think eventually I'm going to work on some other things after the next building I'm building, and maybe work on a few trains and things. I like playing with specialty trains, and I have a circus train, a military train, and several things that I've been working on for a few years, so maybe we'll do some of that as well. But in any case, no matter what you're working on, enjoy the hobby and happy model railroading.